PhD programs, and our basic purpose is to promote the students, awaken them with their strength, and I can say provide the training for the weaker section. Dear students, our college have already supported some of the startups. Some of the startups like Food EG, in which our one of the student is supplying the food at reasonable cost. Organic foods, we can say organic vegetables, organic grains, uh, organic all the foods as per the requirement. He had created a app for that, and he can supply it at doorsteps with his all the infrastructure available. Other is Sehat EG. Sehat EG is that startup through which any person can check his complete medical checkup just in 1 rupee. He is having total coordination with all the hospitals and all that. So already we have started these activities, but this is very limited. This is very, very limited, very particular. We have to make it at large. We have to increase its scope, and we have to awaken the every student community and faculties also, so that they can go for entrepreneurship, or if the idea is innovative and useful to society, that can go to the startup. And for startup, you know that here from MSME, Startup India, state government, they can support for the startup ideas. You can get the funding. Funding is not a problem, but you must have a courage. The first session is creative thinking, critical thinking, and innovation design. You must have idea. You must have thinking, creative thinking, critical thinking. These are the very, very important words. Critical thinking, and in critical thinking, creative thinking. Suppose you are living in a desert. Suppose you are living in desert like a camel. What camel can do? Camel drink water, and he can sustain for next few months, up to 6 months without water. So such capacity, such sustainability should be there in you while doing any business. तुम्ही कॅमल पाहता डेझर्ट मध्ये, पाणी एकदा पितं ते, आणि पुढचे काही महिने जरी त्याला पाणी नाही भेटलं तरी ते कॅमल जिवंत राहू शकतं. बिझनेसला सुद्धा हे लागू पडतं मित्र. सस्टेनेबिलिटी, ट्राय टू अंडरस्टँड. डेफिनेटली यू मस्ट हॅव करेज. Means you must have some ability of camel, but in some cases courage is required, some attacking also required. You must become a tiger also sometimes. You must be aggressive to complete the targets, whatever targets are given. So for that you must be able to become a tiger also, or you must be able to flow against the flow of water. Sometimes you must be able to flow against the flow of water. I want to say you must be able to swim against flow of water. म्हणजे प्रवाहाच्या विरुद्ध सुद्धा पोहता आलं पाहिजे वेळ पडली तर. जसं की सॅलोमन फिश असतो, that Salmon fish can swim against the flow of the water, living in the water also. If there's a requirement, sustainability, attacking, leadership, like a tiger, you can be a leader. There must be flexibility. This quality should be there if you are having that, and definitely there must be innovative ideas, vision, like an eagle. Eagle fly in the sky. As it goes high and high, its vision enlarges. Its vision enlarges. जेवढा गरुड वरती वरती जातो तेवढं त्याचं विजन, त्याचं क्षेत्र बघण्याचं मोठं होतं, आणि मग त्याला जास्त स्कोप मिळतो. तेवढं विजन तुमच्याकडे गरुडासारखं असणं गरजेचं आहे. तुम्हाला एक्झाम्पल घेऊन सांगितलं जस्ट सो दॅट यू कॅन understand it well. You must have a vision, and definitely if a vision is there, you can have innovative idea should be innovative, and then we can go for our startups and all that. We can have own entrepreneurship. बऱ्याच वेळेस काय होतंय, बऱ्याच लोकांना नाही मला हा बिझनेस जमणारच नाही, मला हा बिझनेस जमणारच नाही, अशा प्रकारची त्यांची एक मानसिकता झालेली असते की नाही मला हे जमणार नाही, फायनान्शियली मला सपोर्ट कोणी करणार नाही, आणि मग मी कशाला डेअरिंग करू, म्हणजे माझी जी नोकरी आहे ती चालूच राहू द्या. मित्र हो, यू मस्ट डू द सर्व्हिस. सर्व्हिस केली पाहिजे, सर्व्हिस करा, बट टेक इट ॲज अ एक्सपिरियन्स. कुठल्याही क्षेत्रामध्ये तुम्ही एक्सपिरियन्स घ्या. वन्स यू टेक द एक्सपिरियन्स फॉर 3-4 years, you must have ambition to go for your own entrepreneurship, own business, or you must have own start. So what is difference between entrepreneurship and startups? Definitely experts will talk on this. Entrepreneurship can be anything, whatever business is going on. You can have more quality, more service, better service, and you can enter into same entrepreneurship whatever is already in the market. Startups, you must have some new idea. Friends, echo is there? Okay. There is a wider scope in agricultural sector. Automation is required, and many works are nowadays also doing by manually. Works are done manually in agriculture sector. Suppose watering of the crops in the night hours, farmers are doing. What automation we can do that in that area? That we can think. शेतकरी तुम्हाला माहिती आहे, रात्री दारे धरतात, रात्रभर जागावं लागतं, पॉवर सप्लाय नसतो. याच्यामध्ये तुम्ही काय ऑटोमेशन करू शकता का, ते तुम्ही बघू शकता. प्रॉपर जमीन आहे त्यामध्ये ते पीक घ्यायला पाहिजे, त्याचं पाण्याचं किती प्रमाण असलं पाहिजे, ह्याचं सुद्धा एक अभ्यास आणि टेस्ट तुम्ही शेतकऱ्यांना देऊन त्याच्यामध्ये काय मदत करू शकता का, वेगवेगळी पिकं घेण्यामध्ये असेल ऑटोमेशन करू शकता. स्टोरेज मध्ये प्रॉब्लेम आहे, बराचसा कांदा हा जास्त झाला की फेकावा लागतो, टमाटे पण जास्त झाले की फेकावं लागतात, आणि मग ज्यावेळेस शॉर्टेज येतं तेव्हा कांद्यात डोळ्यामध्ये पाणी येतं तरी कांदा मिळत नाही. याच्यावर आपण काय करू शकतो, स्टोरेज पर्टिक्युलरली क्रॉप्स, कारण हे पटकन खराब होणाऱ्या वस्तू आहेत. सो व्हॉट वी कॅन and there is a wider scope of the business in this, because in any of other businesses also, but this will be useful to the farmers of the country. So I will not continue further because resource persons are there. Just as a welcome to everybody, Dr. Kasturi Sahai and Miss Kajal Rajvedya, welcome to them. I'm proud to welcome Kajal Rajvedya as a alumni of this college, who is having his own business, own startup, and she is going to guide to you. So, dear friends, students, and faculty, take maximum advantage of this. Don't take it lightly. You must have knowledge of everything. What we can go, what business we can start. And for starting business, age is not the factor. At the age of 60, at the age of 50, at the age of 70, you can start your business also. You can start your startup also. No issue. But you must have desire, you must have willpower. And where there is a will, there is a way. So this is the say we can say. So once again, welcome to all. Best wishes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Learning gives creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking leads to knowledge, and knowledge makes you great. The origin of innovation and entrepreneurship is a creative mindset. Creative thinking is a skill which lets you consider things from a fresh perspective and different angles. It's an inventive thought process which results in surprising conclusions and new ways of doing things. Creative thinking can be aided by brainstorming or lateral thinking to generate ideas. I take this opportunity to welcome our today's resource person, Dr. Kasturi Sahai, on behalf of Shreyas College of Engineering and Technology, Aurangabad. Now, let me introduce you to this great personality. Dr. Kasturi Sahai is an assistant professor in Amity University, Jharkhand, Ranchi. Having completed education from Delhi University and BIT Mesra Ranchi, she has more than 13 years of corporate and teaching experience. She has published many research papers on various facets of virtual leadership and managing virtual teams in Scopus Index journals and presented during international conferences across the globe. She also has a book on leading virtual teams to her credit. She is working as a head in management and law department. She is convener for Entrepreneurship Development Cell, Amity University, Jharkhand. Creativity is thinking up new things. Innovation is doing new things. Let us now begin our first session on creative thinking, critical thinking, and innovative design to be delivered by Dr. Kasturi Sahai ma'am. I welcome you all and I welcome Kasturi ma'am. Now she will deliver her lecture. Kasturi ma'am, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I would like to also thank Dr. Ramkishan Pawar, sir, and the whole institute for welcoming me to take this session. Though the introduction was a bit long, but I'm humble and I would say that I'm a part of you all and I'm here to discuss about what you students can do. As ma'am was saying that after the entrepreneurship development cell here, so I have realized in last 4 5 years that you students have the creativity or have the capacity to critically think about a situation in a much better way than what we at our age have. So the entrepreneur in you should not be stopped by a 9 to 5 job, and you should be having the thought of actually going ahead with what comes in your mind. Yes, of course you need the financial backing and the technical know-how about it, but the knowledge is there. You just need to go about and look for it, right? So I'll start the session on the topic for today with a small video, and then we'll begin the session. Please let me know when the video is visible to you all. Is the screen visible to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
If anyone can just... Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All you have at home is a coconut, some
Visible
rice,
screen, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
If you have
And I
no
hope
clue
it's
and
audible.
zero creative thoughts, you'd probably eat the raw egg with
I'm
unboiled
starting it
hard
again for you all to have a...
Imagine you are hungry and all you have at home is a coconut, some rice, and an egg. If you have no clue and zero creative thoughts, you'd probably eat the raw egg with unboiled hard rice while staring at the coconut. If, however, you have memories of your dad cracking the coconut and your mum boiling the rice, your brain can connect the dots and form a new creative idea. You boil the rice in coconut water, then fry it with the egg and add coconut flakes. Voila! Enjoy your meal. Creativity is our ability to look at a problem and come up with a good solution to solve it. Once we understand this, we realize that it has nothing to do with the subject matter, job, or what we study. There are creative inventors and creative artists, but there are also very creative cleaners and highly creative teachers. People we worship for their creativity often just connect different ideas in a beautiful new way and make them commercially successful. While all of us are creative, we differ in the way that we are and to what extent. Michael Keaton came up with the adaption innovation theory. He believes that when we solve problems, we are either more adaptive or more innovative. People who are more adaptive creative try to do things better. People who are more innovative creative try to do things differently. To solve a specific problem, say that of smelly cat litter, both types would use a different approach. More adaptive types look for a solution inside the box. They might try to create better cat litter by looking at its chemical properties, then increase the size of the sand particles, and finally add some refreshing tropical scent. More innovative creatives think outside the litter box. They come up with cat diapers, cat schools for good manners, or a robo-cat. But there are also other differences. Psychologist J.P. Guilford and some others argue that there is divergent and convergent thinking. More divergent thinkers are better at coming up with lots of ideas when they see a problem. Convergent thinkers see all the details and are better at narrowing down the options. A diverse team is hence usually most effective when trying to solve problems. A divergent thinker can list many ideas. After, a convergent thinker can then look at each option in detail and then pick the best one. The result is better than if anyone would do it by themselves. A murder mystery experiment involving two groups of students shows how creative diversity works. Group A was full of students from the same background. Group B was also all similar, but joined by one single stranger. The students from Group A enjoyed the process and felt like they worked together very well. The students in Group B didn't like having a stranger in their team, but they solved the mystery twice as fast and won the race. The researchers concluded that the stranger added a new perspective, making the group think harder and making them more careful of drawing fast conclusions or falling into groupthink. The result was a more intelligent problem-solving process. If we want to become more creative, we first have to build a collection of knowledge and memories, ideally by seeking new experiences. Only then can we increase the dots in our brain that we can connect. Clayton Christensen from Harvard Business School recommends that parents should fix things at home all by themselves. Their children then learn that problems can be solved by ourselves and in many different ways. Jack, professor of creativity at Penn State University, recommends to dress for failure. This gives us a new perspective and the ability to play new roles. Mark Schvinn, founder of Minute Videos, suggests practicing saying yes, because whenever we say yes, we open the door to new experiences. Can you help me? Want to try my ice cream? Can I talk to you? Yes, yes, yes. We recommend you do one thing you have never done before every day for at least 1 week. Call your weird aunt, talk to a stranger, eat using your left hand, or take a really, really cold shower. Every evening, write down what you did and what you learned from it. Right now, and share your experience in the comments below right after.
I hope the video was audible and visible to all. So let's have one rule here first, that you will keep yourself mute and some strange sound will not come in between the session. That is one rule and one request from all the students here. Let's focus on what we are here for. Don't waste your time, right? So let us start with creative thinking and critical thinking. But before we begin, if any of the student would like to unmute and tell me is entrepreneurship or is creative thinking actually the goal of your life? Or you all, I presume you all are BTech students, so you all are looking towards getting a job and getting a good package, getting a good profile. Is that what you're aspiring for, or is there someone in your class, in your batch, who would like to start something of their own?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to start my own business.
Oh, that's great, Tejinder. So what exactly do you have in mind? Anything you have already thought about?
Yes, ma'am. I have thought about an laptop power bank which will be compatible to all laptops, because nowadays we all have laptops with less battery capacity, but we anyway we can't get any power bank for laptops. So I'm
Great
thinking
thought,
about that.
Tejinder. See, here is where the creativity is coming out, because you have some experience with the laptops, with the power banks, and there is a zeal to do something new. So maybe you have that creative mind, that critical thinking. So now, after your creativity, the next step is actually critically thinking whether it is a feasible idea or not, right? And as well as how you're going to do it. You need some computer scientists for it. You need some innovators who would actually put this model into action. You might be that person, or you might hire. So it totally depends on you how you concrete your ideas. So let us start with critical thinking here, and creative thinking is what and innovation designing is, obviously. So I hope the screen and the presentation is visible. If anyone
Yes,
could
ma'am.
just say a
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Visible.
So Plato said thinking, that is the talking of the soul with itself. Thank you so much. So what Tejinder was doing right now was, though on a virtual mode he was talking to me, but actually what he was doing is he was talking to himself, right? He was putting his own thoughts into a more concrete shape. So thinking is about talking with your own self. Now, the session today is about critical thinking and creative thinking, which will obviously lead you to becoming not only an entrepreneur, but a person of interest, a person who would like to take hurdles and solve them. So let us start with the history a bit. In 1958, there was an experiment which was conducted by Professor E. Paul Torrance. What he did was he took 400 children and he told them to do some creativity tasks. The children were asked by him, how could you improve this toy to make it better and more fun to play with? So, what he did was he gave toys to 400 children and he asked them to suggest as to what else can be done to the toy to make it more fun with. So now these children came up with a lot of ideas, and later it was researched that the children who had come up with some very good ideas or some brilliant ideas were actually the people who grew up and became entrepreneur, inventors, college presidents, authors and doctors, diplomats and software developers. So this is how your creativity begins from your childhood and will lead you to become successful in life. It's not just about entrepreneur. To become successful in life, you need to have a creative thinking. You need to actually make your brain work. So another person, Jonathan Plucker of Indiana University, he researched about this experiment which Torrance did, and he found the correlation to lifetime creative accomplishment was more than 3 times stronger for childhood creativity than people who don't have. So the correlation between the lifetime creative accomplishment is 3 times more with people, with children who are more creative in their childhood. So these are the different kind of experiments which says that the creative thinking or the critical thinking actually starts from a childhood of a person, and later obviously these are the people who become successful in life. So now what exactly is critical thinking? If we talk about critical thinking, it is a self-directed process by which we take deliberate steps to think at the highest level. Now, no one can force you into thinking critically. This is something of a self developed method or a self developed habit. Wherever you see a problem or wherever you see something, you actually start thinking critically for solving it, right? So critical thinking is actually a self innovative or a self directed method by which someone takes steps to think at the highest level possible. Now what are the skills, if I talk about, if you want to judge yourself whether you are a critical thinker or not, these are how a person having these skills will actually be termed as a critical thinker. Whenever there is a problem or whenever there's a situation, the person who has this critical thinking skill will actually reason out as to why this problem exists and what are the lackings behind it. Then he will evaluate the options available, right? Like suppose you have to travel from place A to place B. So now you start reasoning out as to why you need to travel, what are the different repercussions of traveling. Then you start evaluating as to what are the different methods by which you can travel from A to B. You have, suppose, the option of flight, you have the option of car, you have the option by road, you have the option of walking, cycling. So these are the different ways by which you can travel, and then you analyze those options. You actually start digging deeper as to which method is the most feasible one, and then you take a decision. You finally take a decision. And of course, a person who has these skills will turn out to be a problem solving person who will actually be able to solve problems. So these are the skills which a critical thinker should have. Now, when we talk of creative thinking, a person who is creative, even in your BTech batches, or you might have observed people in your school days, they are innovative. They can, some people will actually, some children will crib that they don't have toys to play. And what other children will do is they will create toys, maybe with an empty box, or with some, say, potato, or say anything, any random thing they get, and they innovate a toy and they start playing with it, right? So this is about, creative thinking is about your unconstrained thinking. There is no restrictions to your thinking. Now we, as we mature, we have some kind of constraints in our mind, that what we have got with our experiences, or what we have got through our studies, we limit ourselves, we limit our thoughts, right? But in creative thinking, a person who is a creative thinker would have unconstrained thinking. He might even think, if I was talking about from place A to place B, I, not being a creative person, would think car, train, flight, cycling, and all. But a creative person might even think a spacecraft, right? Or a air car, something which is very different, very innovative, out of the box thought. So that is what is all about creative thinking. It is associated with exploration and ideas. You actually start exploring new things, new ideas, and I don't know, like, I'm sure you all must also be putting in your technical know-how in ways in exploring new ideas. Nowadays, the students have this trend of creating apps, especially the BTech students, the computer science students. They create apps with, and then they create games using different softwares. So what is all this? This is about innovation. This is about inventive thinking, right? So creative thinking is when you do not limit yourself, you let the sky be your ultimate aim. You don't limit yourself to your room, to your house, to the infrastructure, to anything available. Like anyone else would like to put in something here? Some student would like to give me an example of a creative thinking or a creative idea which they have adopted somewhere in their life. Anyone would like to put in here? Do I see that we have some creative thinkers in the batch? Okay, I'll give you one example. Like, I was judging a science exhibition for government school students, and one of the ideas which students had generally made some water cycles or maybe some models, some projects, but one student had actually made a washing machine with a cycle. There was a cycle which he was pedaling, and there was a bucket with a machine kind of thing on it, and it was revolving, rotating around. So it was actually cleaning the clothes. So this is a kind of a creative thinking which he did, just using a cycle, a bucket, and a motor and a pump. So this is how you actually start thinking creativity. You go out of what has been taught. Like, most, if I tell a school children to make a science exhibition, they will only think from the book which they have studied, and they'll only come up with such ideas. But there might be some students who will think out of the box, who will go beyond their syllabus and think of something, right? So that is about creative thinking. Now, creativity, as you can see, it is about ideas, it is about your incubation, intelligence, thinking, brainstorming. Brainstorming, obviously, there are so many creative ideas which comes up in, the hostel rooms at midnight when the 5 friends are sitting together and discussing about their future. So brainstorming actually is very important. And of course, how you're going to solve this is also another important aspect of creativity. The critical and creative function of the minds are so interwoven that neither can be separated from the other without an essential loss to both. So the topic today, that is critical thinking and creative thinking, is actually very interwoven. You cannot say that a person who's creative will not be thinking critically. It is actually interwoven, and if you are separating the two, you are actually giving a loss to both. So these two features of your mind, of your personality, is actually interwoven. Now, when we talk of critical thinking and creative thinking, now what is critical thinking and what is creative thinking? You might think that ma'am is continuously saying these two words, but what exactly is your creative thinking and what exactly is critical thinking? Now, when we talk of critical thinking, it is the problem solving, enhancing creativity. And when we talk of critical thinking, there is discipline, there is intelligence. A person has to be intelligent to be able to critically think. He should have a good memory. He should be able to have a very strong memory so that he is able to store in whatever he has learned in the past. He should have an analytical reasoning brain. Obviously, analyzing is important part of critically thinking. Then, of course, mathematically, he should be very strong. And logical reasoning, he should be having a logical reasoning. So these are some attributes which a critical thinker will have, and a creative thinker will have some way of solving problems which will enhance creativity of the problem, right? So when you are seeing a problem, and if you are trying to solve it logically with reasons, with the past experience, that is your critical thinking. And when you are trying to solve that problem with some enhanced creativity to it, that is where creative thinking comes, right? Like the video which I was showing in the initial, it had that a cat litter was smelling. So what will a person, a creative person and a critical person will do? A critical person might put in his memory, might put in his intelligence, might put in his experience, and come up with, some kind of a couch or something which has some fragrance for the cat. And a creative thinker might come up with, cat diapers or maybe robot cats. So it totally depends on how you're trying to solve the problem. Now we come to criticality assess and creativity originates. How these two? Why? Why do we need to think about critical thinking? What is the aim of critical thinking? Why is it so important for a person to be successful? The aim of critical thinking is to promote independent thinking, personal autonomy and reasoned judgment in thought and action, the ability to reason well and is positioned to do so. So what happens is a critical thinker is not limited to his thoughts, as we were discussing before. As a parent, as a teacher, as a guardian, as a guide, the most important thing is to let the person think wild. Till he or she is not able to think independently, he or she will not become a creative critical thinker. So there should be personal autonomy, that is, he should be free to do and free to think, free to judge whatever he wishes to think about. So that is where the ability to reason well and is enhanced, So now these are the keys to critical thinking. First, that is read, recognize assumptions, evaluate arguments, and draw conclusions. This is how you think critically. There's 3 steps to it, and I'm sure you remember it as read. That is, recognize assumptions. What are the assumptions which you can make about a problem or a situation? Then evaluate the arguments which are available to you, evaluate the situation, evaluate the options available, and then finally you draw conclusions as to how a problem can be solved or how a situation can be solved. So this is how, these are the keys to critical thinking. Now, moving ahead with red thinking, higher order executive functioning, thinking that analyzes, assesses, and improves green thinking. Now, after red thinking, we have a new concept of green thinking. Green thinking actually is instinctive, automatic, spontaneous thinking, and unconsciously guided. Red thinking and green thinking are 2 concepts which we will be now learning about. If I talk of green thinking is about your spontaneous, how spontaneous you are. If you're given a problem and, like I asked a question and someone jumped and answered it, that is spontaneity. How quick you are in solving a problem. Subconsciously, how you are trying to do it, uncontrolled. There is no controlled factors. You are limiting yourself to do a thing, right? And then there's reflexive. A person should be reflexive in quickly reacting towards some action. Impulsive, obviously, another way of saying about spontaneity, and he or she is unanalyzed. You're not judging that person. Then he or she might come up with a free thinking. I request the participants to please mute yourself. I can hear some background music sound somewhere. Thank you. Now, if we talk of red thinking, now this was about your green thinking, that is spontaneous, uncontrolled, impulsive, subconscious, reflective, and unanalyzed, right? Now, if we move to red thinking, these are attributes which a red concept should have. That is, he should be self-disciplined, self-assessing, self-correcting, seeks the truth critically, and thinking. All these are different elements of red thinking. Now, for your routine work, how can you become a creative person in your day-to-day life? If your routine work is done actually by, say, people, by machines, and creative work is done by research, development, design, marketing and sales, global supply chain management, a bit of management here, but yes, of course, all these things come with the creativity. Your part as BTech, as engineering students, is the R&D and the design part, right? So the normal day-to-day work is done by people and by machines, but the creative lot of an organization actually contribute to the research and development, to the design part. Now, what is true and what is false? Critically thinking is for science and maths. Is this true? And creative thinking is for arts and humanities. Is that true? No, I would say no. It's not, you cannot judge or you cannot say that a person who is into arts or who is into humanities will always be a very creative person. and he cannot be a critical thinker. For history, subjects like history, also you need to be a critical thinker. So you cannot judge that, okay, we are science students, we are able to think critically, and these are art students, they do drawing and painting, and they are the creative lot. Critical and creative thinking can and should be applied to any subject, content, or problem. You cannot, like we were discussing, you cannot differentiate the two. You need to admit that creative thinking and critical thinking, they both come hand in hand, and it is applied to any subject, any content, any problem, right? Creativity is a right brain activity. Is it true or false? Creativity is to the right of the brain, and critically thinking is actually to the left. Not true that the left-handed, I being a left-handed person, have been always been told, okay, left-handed people are, they have a right strong brain and they're more creative. Yes, of course, this is scientifically proven that the right brain of ours is left side of the brain is more towards the critical part. So we can say the people having the right brain are more strong towards it. Creative thinking requires divergent thinking and then convergent thinking. Creativity requires constant shifting between right and left brain. Now, this is another assumption which is made, that creative thinking requires, first you need to think diverge. Of course, critically thinking is, and as well as creative thinking, you need to think big and then evaluate everything and then draw conclusions, that is converge your thoughts to a single thought, right? So this is about creative thinking, and creativity requires constant shifting between the right and the left brain. So creativity requires constant shifting. Of course, when you're talking about creativity, you have your right brain and your left brain, and together both your the whole brain actually contributes to your creativity. So you cannot say that, okay, if I'm a left-handed person, I'll be more creative, or if I'm a right-handed person, I'll be less creative. It's about the way you think. Creativity can be taught. What do you think? I would ask the students here. I'll take a pause and ask the students, do you think that creativity can be taught, or is it something which is a god gifted quality? Anyone would like to put in something here? Let us have some students who would like to speak up.
No, ma'am, it is not gifted. It is not God gifted. We
Okay,
can
it is not.
practice it.
Okay, let's take a 2-minute pause and interact with the students here. So Anurag says it's not God gifted. You can actually, learn it, right, Anurag?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else would like to speak? Are you in favor to what Anurag is saying, or are you having a different opinion? Tejinder, will you like to put in? Do you think creativity is something which is God gifted, or you need to learn to be creative?
Ma'am, each and every student has its own creativity and creative ideas. Just he has to change his mindset to for seeing all the things. He can be creative for anything.
All right, all right. Great. That's a great thought. Anyone else would like to put in? What do you think that uh, is it something which, what have you experienced? Have you experienced it as a God gifted thing, or do you think you have actually imbibed it over the years? Let me come up with some more students here. Avinash, if you'd like to unmute, or Prateek. Let the girls speak up. Anyone would like to speak how creative you are or how critical you are? Gayatri, or Aarti. Anyone would like to speak up here? Okay. I think the girls are not in a mood to speak up. So I feel creativity can be taught, as was being shared by the students. It can be taught, it can be practiced. You can actually learn how to be creative. Some people are obviously born creative, but for some, you can actually, if you think, if you wish to learn it, you can actually learn it by practicing. So strategies for teaching critical and creative thinking. First of all, you need to be fluent in what you think. Like, if suppose you have an idea to start your own business sometime later in life, or suppose you have a simple problem in hand. It's, let's not go big into, becoming the CEO of a company, but let's think about, you have some problem. So first of all, you need to think about it and list as many ideas as possible related to your problem at hand, right? Second, you need to be flexible. You need to think about it from different perspectives, not just the perspective which you have, but it should be more open to different perspectives, different opinions, and then maybe, come up with some unique ideas. That is the originality. Not just go to Google and find some idea and, copy paste that same. So it has to be a unique idea, and only then you will become successful in life. And then obviously elaborate it, build it up on existing idea, add detail to it, add different features to it, add more specifications to it. So this is how you can critically think about a problem at hand. And if I talk at large, you can think the same about when you are trying to become an entrepreneur. Like, you need to think about the idea. Like, one of the student, Tejinder, I think he came up with an idea, right? So what he has to do is he need to think more about it. He need to think from different perspectives. Right now what he's thinking as a student with his own experience, but then he need to meet more people. He need to, brainstorm with it. Maybe people of a higher age group will have a different perspective. People belonging to schools, children will have a different perspective. People in different working professions will have different perspectives. So you need to gather everything around it and then come up with one unique idea for his problem, for his idea, and then of course elaborate it with more features, with more specifications, right? Now we as teachers, I think we have some faculties here as well. So I have put in this for especially for them, that how can we encourage them during their school years, during their college years. Obviously first is, thinking is a skill that young mind will undeniably need and exercise well beyond their school years. We need to encourage them to think beyond the boundary, to think beyond their books, to think beyond, the normal day-to-day life experiences which they are having. Experts agree that in keeping up with the ever-changing technological advances, students will need to obtain, understand, and analyze information on a much more efficient scale. So we as educators, we need to equip our students with the strategies and skills they need to think critically. Now, this whole pandemic, I would like to take this as an experience or example here, that this whole pandemic gave a very good example of critically and creatively thinking. One day, suddenly, there was a notification that from tomorrow there'll be no college, no school, everything will be operational from home. Something which even people who are like, say, in their 90s have not yet experienced. So we didn't have any experience or any experts to tell us how to do that. But see, here now we have all this thought that I, sitting in Ranchi, could take a session for you all there, was also something which was not thought of. When initially we used to have such sessions, it was the expert had to travel, the expert had to stay, interact with the students, and then maybe, impart knowledge. But now a sudden change came up, and the creative thinkers here, or the critical thinkers, grab this opportunity to come up with great ideas. Like some ideas are beyond imagination. If we talk about since last 2 3 years, if we go beyond that, people might never have imagined it, that some cultural programs could happen online. I have witnessed, freshers day and farewell day happening online, or maybe the way exams are being conducted, the proctored exams, the online exams, the whole education companies came up with such platforms which helped us doing it. Online labs are available now where students could be taught as to how these things, this was not thought of. So when you have a situation, it is up to you whether you want to sit and cry or whether you want to actually creatively think about it. So that is what we did in last 2 3 years. And we could actually fight against this pandemic, not only the health wise but also the education wise. This is something of an appreciation for the teachers, for the students, for the technology, that we didn't stop for a single day. Especially as I would like to share my experience with my university, that even before the lockdown happened, 1 week prior to it, we had started, because we as teachers also found it difficult. We had professors of mathematics, statistics. How could they teach online? So, there were a lot of juggling going on in their minds, and professors came up with great creative ways of teaching the students, and the students of course adapted themselves to this situation, and we all came up with some great creative ideas, right? I'm sure the students can relate to it. So these are the three important aspects when we are talking of thinking. You need to have people who would help you in thinking, you need to have knowledge of thinking, and you need to have innovations. What exactly are you going to think about? Is it some movie, is it some people, or is it some innovation? So you need to be sure as to what your brain is being used for. Are you wasting your brain, or you are actually putting it to use, right? So moving ahead, this is where I'll take a pause from the presentation. I think imagination is more important than knowledge, is what Albert Einstein said. And let me stop sharing here, and we'll take it more on a discussion mode now on. I want some proactive students. Please be ready to unmute yourself. Let's take next 10 15 minutes to actually interact. What exactly is in your mind? How can you actually be more creative, more critical? The gist of the presentation we had today was that you need to think beyond the box. You need not be sad or disappointed that okay, so and so is a creative person, he or she can make some beautiful drawings, or he or she can create some beautiful crafts. So that is not something which is Rubina Shah, can you please mute yourself?
हाँ हाँ क्या
Rubina ma'am, if you can please mute yourself. Thank you. So basically what happens is, I want some proactive students you here who would like to tell me what is creativity for them. Let me start with Tejinder, my the most proactive student here. And this, can you come up and tell me why do you think some people are more creative and some people are not? What is limiting them? It's always great getting knowledge from the students.
It's their point of view. They always think that I am not creative, and they always compare themselves with others. That she is doing much more things and I can't do that things. They always try to compare all the things with them. So because of that, they are lacking with that creativity. They have that creativity in them, but it is not coming out from them.
Okay, so yes, of course, the gender very well said that, first of all, for your age group, the first thing which you said is comparing with others. This, of course, creates a lot of problem. The peer pressure is there. I don't know why. Even a small kid, I have my children who are like 8 and 5, they are so worried about what their friends will think. So this is the psychology of youth, about their peer pressure. What will others think about me? You need to overcome that. To most of you might be here and listening to this, but when I'm asking question, none of you are unmuting yourself. It is not because you don't have that answer to the question, but it's because you're thinking, what will my HOD think, what will my principal think, what will my professors think, and what will my friends think about my answer? Am I able to impress the speaker or not? So that is what is stopping you from actually answering the questions. If I'm not wrong, I'm sure most of you will relate to this, right? So think beyond it. Be sure of what you are thinking, and there's no right or wrong. Even if you're putting up a thought, you should be bold enough to say that, yes, I am confident about my answer. Don't be worried as to what will others think about me. So one very important point which is stopping the youth to go beyond is the risk taking ability. You're not sure about taking risk. Why will I leave a job of say 7 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs package and become an entrepreneur to start about my own creative thinking? Who will take this risk? I have parents to look after. I have my house to look after. I want a good Audi car for myself. Will I be able to get it if I become an entrepreneur? So this is where an entrepreneur and a non-entrepreneur is differentiated. He or she has to be a creative person. Beside that, he should also be a risk taker. You should be able to take risk. Only then will you succeed in life. If you read some autobiographies of some leading CEOs, some leading businessmen, you'll see how much risk they have taken. And only then, and you need to trust your idea. If you doubt your own experience, your own trust, if you doubt your own thought, no one will trust you. So you should have the zeal to trust about yourself and actually work upon it. Anyone else would like to put in here about their ideas, about what is stopping you from becoming a creative thinker? I'm sure you all are becoming the budding engineers here. So the critical thinking part must be very affluent in you all. What about the creative part? What is stopping you from being creative, from being innovative? Anyone would like to speak up? And please don't think what will the other people think, what will your guests think, what will your professors think. Please speak up, or else I'll start calling out names now. Anurag, Aisha, I can see so many. Shubham. Anyone would like to tell me what stops you from becoming creative? Is it the responsibility? Is it the learning? What is stopping you? Nikita, I can see so many of you. Pooja, anyone would like to speak up? I don't know why you all don't. Yes, please.
I think, sorry to interrupt you. I think,
Yes, sir.
ma'am, students are not knowing exactly how to become creative and what is in the real sense. We can give some examples how to be a creative. With some examples, we can elaborate. Then they will speak it out.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you for your input. So, as I was saying, how can you become creative? We have discussed it in the presentation. You can be creative by thinking out of the box. If you have a problem, you need to actually think as to how you can solve. It's there inside you. You need to just open up your mind and think. Especially you youth, you have different ways, different thought process, which will help you to think beyond the boundaries. Like I was saying, if someone is getting bored, how do you actually think of uh, Just give me a moment. My battery is getting low. A minute. Yes. So what I was saying is that if you talk about a student or a children, if I give you some idea, say for example, I give you a situation that you have, say a pen and a paper, and I tell you to use these two items, and suppose a comb, and you need to sell these things to a person. How will you sell any one of it? So what are the different creative ways in which you can actually think of selling it? Or maybe if you have different components, how are you going to create a machine? How can you use say a calculator, a magnet, or an iron, anything, any weight thing, and how you're using it to create different things is what actually contributes to you becoming a creative person. So with this, I would like to put in a thought here before we end the session, to think, to go back today home and think as to how you can become more creative, how you can become more critically thinking about ideas. It's in you. You don't need someone apart from yourself to tell you as to how you can become more creative or more critical. Think beyond the boundaries. Don't limit yourself to the limitations, to the restrictions which are there. Only then will you be able to successfully innovate something. So with this, I would like to put a stop to my session. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, dear students and professors, for welcoming me. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
very much, ma'am. Now the topic is open for taking up questions. If you have any questions, you can interact with the resource person. Anyone who is interested can ask questions. I think so. You all have understood. Okay.
you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your informative lecture,
Thank you so much, ma'am.
which will
And thank
really
you so
benefit participants at large. It is important that we go beyond paradigms and create a system of entrepreneurship and innovation wherein our youth transform from job seekers to job creators. I thank our principal, participants, all HODs, colleagues, and students for their participation in this session. I declare that first session is over. We'll join again at 1:45 p.m. sharp for second session after lunch. Thank you very much. We are providing you with a feedback form, so all are requested to fill it.
मुझे लगता है इसका प्रॉब्लम है पेस्ट नहीं होगा सिलेक्ट भी नहीं होगा लैपटॉप इसका मेरा इसके वजह से